Hey, look, if you want 2026 to be your year, you really, really need to focus on that. And what I want to talk today about is how smart corporate professionals build a lot of wealth on the side of their actual jobs. And the reason I want to cover this topic is this is what I was doing the last 7 years. And I want to share different stories and different examples. And I want to share the vehicle that a lot of these individuals have used for them to propel themselves to transition out of a corporate world to get into a business owner and to essentially own a company and build equity, build wealth, and increase your cash flow. In order for you to succeed in a vehicle like this, number one is you got to be focused. You got to have a high threshold of pain point, meaning you're already in a situation where you're sick and tired and you want to get out of that. You can be complacent, you can be comfortable, and you actually have a true desire to get out of that and you want to succeed. Those are the only individuals that we ever worked with that actually succeeded with the process. So take a look at this video if you want to understand a little bit more about the video. So at acquisitions.com, we've actually helped a lot of individuals go through this process fully. Now, I'm an operating partner of a company. I've been part of this ecosystem for the last 7 years. I've been involved in hundreds and hundreds of deals with different clients. And you got to understand that the path is not straightforward. You got to understand that it takes a lot of commitment, and you can actually pull this off if you have a knowledge base and if you have the contacts and you have the right financing and the right opportunity in front of you. Just a few examples, just for you to understand the context that I have. I had a guy, Justice, that acquired an e-commerce company that was a million revenue e-commerce company that was doing close to 500K in profit as a company. And he essentially found the deal using our process. He analyzed the deal using our process. He then negotiated the deal and then he got revenue financing on that deal. And he got one of our accountants and lawyers in the deal from our network to be able to do due diligence on the deal. And he closed the deal in almost 6, 7 months. That's just one example. Um, we had another guy, Mark, who bought a 30-year-old business that was making 5 million in revenue. Again, a corporate professional that never actually really done this before. That company was making close to almost a million in EBITDA, a million in profit essentially. I have another guy here, Tyler, that actually acquired 10 businesses over the last almost 7 years doing this. And the way he done it was a little bit more creatively. He got into consulting some of these businesses and he got equity in these businesses and then he bought them out. So he done that in landscaping, in pest control, in home services, in construction, and trade-based businesses. I have another guy, Ken Hamilton, that essentially acquired a ship repair business that was cash flowing a little bit above 900K in cash flow in Seattle. Another guy, Liam, in Scotland, who acquired two businesses in 3 years doing this with us. And those businesses were actually engineering businesses, and he had a background in engineering, and he was able to buy some of these businesses. It took him, well, almost 3 years working with us to figure out how to do it successfully in his market. He never gave up, and he committed to the process. I have another guy in Singapore, Tien, who acquired a vending machine business, was cash flowing a little bit above 250K in cash flow. I have another guy, um, John, I believe, that acquired an 8 million landscaping business, again, using creative financing, using an SBA loan, and using some investor financing and using a little bit of his own money. I have a guy, Ramon, who acquired a revenue windows and doors business that was doing 1.5 million revenue. Um, and he acquired that with essentially a creative structure, no money down out of his pocket, seller financing, a little bit of equity from an investor, and then a commercial loan. I have another guy, Brandon, who I've talked about on the channel before. He almost done 100% seller financing on $9.5 million on a cybersecurity deal. And the reason he could do it is because he was the perfect buyer for that deal to do the deal with that seller. And there's so many different examples that we could talk about that is probably going to take me hours and hours and hours on end to be able to give you context and examples and results of real life corporate professionals transitioning out of corporate world into acquiring a company. You need to understand the concept. You need to actually understand what they did to be able to replicate this. And today in this video, I'll talk a little bit more about it. But essentially is here's the requirement. You need to put in time into this. It will require in between 10 to up to 20 hours a week to go into buying businesses. Second thing is you need to be able to be in a situation where you have some business acumen, meaning you understand how business works, you understand what functions a business has, you understand how to lead some people. You're not kind of new in business, you're kind of not new in a job. So you've been around the block, you have experience, you've been leading people. And when you're going to get into a business, you're very comfortable and confident you can come in and add value. If you're not that person, you're not going to be successful doing this. Second is you want to make sure you're financially ready, meaning you have some money set aside, you have fairly good credit, and even though you can do no money down deals, you should try to do them even if you have money because it's going to save up all your money and you're going to learn different strategies and you're going to be actually protect yourself and de-risk the deal. You still need to have some money set aside because sometimes you need to pay for accounting, quality of earnings, legal stuff, commercial due diligence. You need to travel, you need to see the deals. So it's not a game where you can get in with $2,000 and you're going to be successful. You should have at least $50,000 set aside, most likely, and time set aside for you to be able to actually go and execute the process correctly. Um, the second thing you got to understand, there's a few functions, there's a few things you need to learn. One is you need to learn how to find opportunities. This is the most important skill set. If you don't understand what are the channels you're going to be using to find these deals, you're not going to be able to be successful. So you need to get comfortable mastering that skill set. Finding a deal for a broker, finding a deal for cold calling somebody, finding a deal for an accountant, finding a deal for a lawyer, and just being able to be kind of like a machine that always generates deals and prospects people. Typically, sales professionals are going to be a very good fit for a lot of these roles because they're kind of doing that on a day-by-day basis. Or if you talked to people in your previous roles in your corporate career, you're going to be able to relate to this. So you're always looking for opportunities. You're always searching for opportunities. This is what a typical business buyer does. Second thing is you need to understand how to look at deals. So financial acumen and financial understanding and accounting understanding is really going to be important, which means you need to gain the skill set. You can't just always delegate this to an accountant and only rely on an accountant. You still need to look at deals. You still need to be able to quickly understand if that deal is bankable and you can actually value the deal in a way that makes sense. So you're going to need to develop these skill sets. The third thing is you're going to need to develop skill sets that relate to negotiations, offering, renegotiating terms, understanding what are the risks in some terms, understanding how to prepare legal and contracts in place that will protect you. Of course, you're going to get a lawyer eventually, and when you're going to finalize the deal, that lawyer is going to finalize a lot of these documents. But still, you need to learn legal jargon and you need to learn negotiation jargon and you need to learn deal structuring. So all the strategies in the M&A world as far as seller financing, debt financing, equity financing, um, you're going to need to understand all the intricacies related to working capital, risks associated to the deal, earnouts, potential earnouts in the deal. You're going to need to be able to put this together to go and buy a company. The fourth thing is you got to understand how financing works from both an investor perspective and from a lending perspective. An investor is not the same thing as a lender. And a lender is typically a business that is lending you capital against the cash flow of a company or against the assets of a company. And essentially, they will have an interest rate and an amortization time for 5, 7, 10 years. And you're going to pay them off. An investor, on the flip side, if he gives you capital, in most cases in this world of buying a business, they will own equity in the company. They will own the company with you. So let's say you'll have 60%, they'll have 40%. Because for giving you that amount of money, they will be an owner with you in the company. Which means once you're going to sell the company, this is how they will get paid eventually, is for selling this business and making more money eventually. So you got to understand these two mechanisms and you got to understand how to talk to both of these parties to be able to get financing in. A lot of people believe you got to have millions and millions of dollars to be able to do a deal. No, that's not true. We had a guy, Greg, who had $50,000. He got $150,000 from somebody else, and he got a $2.4 million loan, I believe, from SBA 7A. Um, and he essentially closed almost like a $2.7 million deal in Med Spa in Florida. And he didn't use $2.7 million. He used $50,000. So you can do very similar things if you know how to structure some of these deals. That company, for example, was cash flowing a little bit above $500,000 in cash flow a year. And it had some assets, it had some other things included. So that was not just the business component. Uh, Another thing you're going to need to understand is you're going to need to understand how to build a team, such as an accounting team, a legal team. So typically an accountant that does quality of earnings and a legal person who understands how to build a purchase agreement custom to what happened in your letter of intent or your contract and custom to the specifications of a deal to help you close it in a way that's going to de-risk you when you're getting to become the owner of that company. He's also going to help you build your own holding company. So under that new holding company, you will buy the new business with. And you will also need to understand how to improve said business. If you're acquiring a company, you need to have a plan in place on how you're going to manage some of the key people and how you're going to grow the company. Because growing the company is one of the most important assets. If you grow the company quicker, you pay the debt off quicker, you pay your investor quicker, and you make it a lot more money. The enterprise value increases, and you succeed a lot more, and you get wealthier a lot more. A lot of people will ask, how can you do this at 10, 20 hours a week? You could do it if you're focused with your time. So a lot of people have the same amount of time every week. What they don't realize is they're wasting a lot of their time on different menial tasks that don't make any sense. So what you need to do is you want to schedule in time for having a call with a seller, having a call with a lender, having a call with an investor, having time on weekends to look at deals you got. So if you know how to schedule your time, which is what we've done for a lot of our clients, is scheduling and helping them create a better schedule and essentially quickly looking for the deals for them and quickly helping them make the offers and quickly getting them financing that allow them to close a lot sooner and not to waste years and years and years to figure out how to do a deal. Most of our clients close in less than 6 months. So if they've actually done the work, they put in the time, they get it done. Hopefully you understand that this is a vehicle that you can use if you're a corporate professional, of course. And if you have more questions, what you could do is you can directly message me on LinkedIn if you want to implement and replicate exactly the same we've done for hundreds of people. And we can get on a call. I can explain to you how we can help you and you can get started. Thanks.